First contact and cultural shock. The vast expanse of space had always held mysteries, but none quite as profound as the day humanity made first contact. It was on a crisp autumn morning in 2157, when the skies above New York City crackled with an energy unlike anything Earth had ever experienced. The air buzzed with anticipation as a sleek, silver vessel descended from the clouds, its design so seamless it seemed to defy the laws of physics. Dr. Amelia Clark, lead xenobiologist at the Global Space Initiative, stood at the forefront of the welcoming committee. Her heart raced, a mixture of excitement and trepidation coursing through her veins. Years of training and speculation had led to this moment, yet nothing could have truly prepared her for what was about to unfold. As the ship's hull opened with a soft hiss, revealing a ramp that extended to the ground, Amelia held her breath. The first alien to emerge was tall and slender, with iridescent skin that shimmered like the surface of a soap bubble. Its large, almond-shaped eyes blinked slowly, taking in the sea of humans before it. "Welcome to Earth," Amelia said, her voice steady despite the tremor in her hands. She raised her palm in a universal gesture of peace. The alien tilted its head, a series of clicks and whistles emanating from what appeared to be a speaking apparatus around its neck. A moment later, a metallic voice translated, "Greetings, humans of Earth. We are the Zarkai, travelers from the star system you call Proxima Centauri." As the initial shock wore off, the real work began. Over the next few weeks, Amelia and her team worked tirelessly to establish communication protocols and begin the monumental task of cultural exchange. The Zarkai, it turned out, were a species driven by an insatiable curiosity, much like humans. However, their approach to life and the universe was fundamentally different in ways that both fascinated and perplexed Earth's scientists. One particular area of interest and confusion was the Zarkai approach to reproduction. As Amelia learned through careful questioning and observation, the aliens reproduced through a complex process of energy transfer, a concept so foreign it challenged everything she thought she knew about biology. "So you're saying that you don't have distinct sexes?" Amelia asked, her brow furrowed as she took notes on her holographic tablet. The Zarkai representative, who had taken the Earth name Zeph, pulsed with a soft blue light, an expression Amelia had come to associate with amusement. "Not in the way you understand it," Zeph replied. "Our species exists as energy patterns. When we choose to create new life, we merge our patterns in a harmonic resonance." Amelia's mind reeled at the implications. But how do you maintain genetic diversity? How do you evolve? Zeph's color shifted to a deep purple, indicating deep thought. Our patterns naturally shift and change over time, influenced by our experiences and environment. When we merge, these changes combine in unique ways, creating new and diverse energy patterns. As fascinating as this was, it presented a significant challenge. The Zarkai found human reproduction equally baffling, and to some degree, unsettling. The concept of physical intimacy, pregnancy, and birth was entirely alien to them. This cultural divide came to a head during the Joint Scientific Conference, where Dr. James Morrison, a prominent human geneticist, was presenting on the intricacies of human DNA replication. As he delved into the details of meiosis and fertilization, the Zarkai delegates began to pulse with a harsh red light, a sign of distress or disgust. "You mean to say," one Zarkai interjected, its translator barely keeping up with its rapid clicks, "that you physically combine genetic material through a process of fluid exchange?" The room fell silent, the tension palpable. Dr. Morrison cleared his throat, clearly uncomfortable. "Well, yes, that's a simplistic way of putting it, but essentially correct." The Zarkai delegates conferred among themselves, their bodies flickering with various colors. Finally, Zeph addressed the human contingent. "We apologize, but we find this concept difficult to process. The idea of physical reproduction seems inefficient and potentially harmful. How do you ensure the well-being of your species with such a random method of genetic combination?" Amelia stepped forward, Sensing the need to bridge this growing cultural gap, while our method may seem random to you, it has served our species well for millions of years. The genetic diversity it provides has allowed us to adapt to countless challenges and evolve into the species we are today. She paused, choosing her next words carefully. Perhaps this is an opportunity for both our species to learn from each other. Our differences in reproduction are just one aspect of our unique evolutionary paths. By understanding these differences, we can gain new insights into the nature of life itself. Her words seemed to have a calming effect on both humans and Zarkai alike. The aliens' colors shifted to a more neutral blue, and the tension in the room began to dissipate. As the conference drew to a close, Zeph approached Amelia. "Your words were wise, Dr. Clark. We have much to learn from each other." Our initial reaction was hasty. "In the spirit of understanding, we propose an exchange program. Would your species be open to having a Zarkai researcher study human reproduction more closely?" Amelia's eyes widened at the proposal. The scientific potential was enormous, but so were the ethical implications. "That's a significant offer, Zeph. I'll need to discuss it with my superiors and our ethics committee. But personally, I believe it could be a remarkable opportunity for both our species." As she watched Zeph glide away, Amelia couldn't help but feel a mix of excitement and apprehension. The proposal of an exchange program was a major step towards interspecies understanding, but it also opened up a Pandora's box of potential complications. How would a Zarkai researcher react to the intricacies of human relationships, the complexities of human emotion tied to reproduction? Moreover, how would humans react to having an alien study such an intimate aspect of their lives? The scientific community might be open to the idea, but the general public could have a very different reaction. As the day wound down and the conference attendees filed out, Amelia found herself standing alone in the now empty auditorium. She gazed out the window at the Zarkai ship hovering silently above the city skyline, its presence a constant reminder of how much the world had changed in such a short time. She couldn't shake the feeling that they were standing on the precipice of something monumental. The exchange program, if approved, would be more than just a scientific endeavor. It would be a true test of humanity's ability to embrace the unknown, to look beyond their own understanding of life, and accept something utterly alien. As she gathered her notes and prepared to leave, Amelia made a decision. She would not only support the exchange program but volunteer to be the human liaison for the Zarkai researcher. It would be challenging, uncomfortable at times, and possibly even dangerous. But the potential for growth, for expanding the boundaries of human knowledge, was too great to ignore. With a deep breath, she stepped out of the auditorium and into a future that was suddenly far more uncertain and infinitely more exciting than she had ever imagined. The journey to understanding the Zarkai, and in turn, understanding humanity's place in the cosmos, was just beginning. The Alien Exchange Program. 6 months after the historic first contact, the Zarkai Human Exchange Program was finally set to begin. The world watched with bated breath as Zeph, the appointed Zarkai researcher, prepared to immerse themselves in human culture to study reproduction up close. Dr. Amelia Clark stood at the entrance of the newly constructed Interspecies Research Center, a state-of-the-art facility designed to house both human and Zarkai scientists. Her heart raced with a mixture of anticipation and nerves as she awaited Zeph's arrival. "Deep breaths, Amelia," she muttered to herself, smoothing down her lab coat for the umpteenth time. "You've prepared for this." A low hum filled the air as Zeph's personal transport pod touched down on the landing pad. The door slid open with a soft hiss, revealing the iridescent form of the Zarkai researcher. Zeph's body pulsed with a soft green light, a color Amelia had come to associate with curiosity and excitement. "Welcome to your new home, Zeph," Amelia greeted, extending her hand in the human gesture of welcome that they had practiced. Zeph's appendage, more energy than solid matter, brushed against Amelia's palm. The touch sent a tingling sensation up her arm, not unpleasant but decidedly alien. "Thank you, Dr. Clark," Zeph's translator intoned. "I am eager to begin our research." As they walked through the facility, Amelia explained the setup. "We've designed living quarters that should be comfortable for you, replicating the energy fields of your home world as best we could. The research labs are equipped with both human and Zarkay technology." Zeph pulsed with acknowledgement. "Your efforts are appreciated. I must admit, the concept of comfort as you understand it is still somewhat foreign to me." Amelia chuckled. "Well, that's why you're here, isn't it? To understand these foreign concepts." Their first week was spent acclimating Zeph to human environments and customs. Despite extensive preparation, there were still moments of cultural shock on both sides. One morning, Amelia entered the lab to find Zeph pulsing rapidly with a deep purple hue, a sign of distress she had never seen before. "Zeph, what's wrong?" she asked, rushing to the alien's side. I believe I've made a grave error," Zeph's translator crackled. "I was reviewing the human biological samples, and I accidentally ingested some." Amelia's eyes widened in shock. "You what? How? Why?" Zeph's form shimmered with embarrassment. "In my species, we often absorb information directly through our energy fields. I thought perhaps, but it seems human biology doesn't work that way." Despite her concern, Amelia couldn't help but laugh. "No, Zeph, it certainly doesn't. But don't worry, a little human DNA isn't going to hurt you. Though I'd appreciate it if you didn't snack on our samples in the future." This incident, while alarming at first, actually served to break down some barriers between them. Zeph became more open about their confusion and curiosity, and Amelia found herself explaining concepts she had always taken for granted. As weeks turned into months, Zeph's understanding of human reproduction grew, but so did their bewilderment. The complexity of human relationships, the interplay of emotions and physical attraction, was particularly perplexing to the Zarkay researcher. "But why?" Zeph asked one day, their form shimmering with confusion. "Do humans engage in reproductive activities when reproduction is not the goal?" Amelia felt her cheeks flush. Despite her scientific background, discussing the intricacies of human sexuality with an alien was still somewhat uncomfortable. "Well, Zeph, for humans, the act of intimacy is not just about reproduction. It's also about pleasure, about connecting with another person on a deep physical level." Zeph's colors swirled as they processed this information. "Fascinating. So the physical sensations serve a purpose beyond procreation." "Exactly," Amelia nodded. "It's tied to our emotions, our psychological well-being. It's a fundamental part of many human relationships." As their research progressed, Zeph's questions became increasingly complex. They were particularly interested in the concept of love, an emotion that had no direct equivalent in Zarkay culture. "You say this love influences mate selection," Zeph mused during one of their discussions. "But how can an emotion ensure genetic compatibility?" Amelia smiled. "It doesn't, not directly anyway. But love often leads to long-term pair bonding, which provides a stable environment for raising offspring. Plus, there's some evidence that we're subconsciously attracted to people with complementary immune systems, which could lead to healthier offspring." Zeph pulsed with intrigue. "So this emotion serves an evolutionary purpose. Fascinating. In our culture, the creation of new life is a purely logical decision, based on the perceived value of combining certain energy patterns." These conversations often left both Amelia and Zeph with much to ponder. For Amelia, it was a chance to see humanity from an entirely new perspective, to question aspects of life she had always taken for granted. For Zeph, each new piece of information seemed to open up a dozen new questions. As their research continued, Amelia noticed a change in Zeph. The alien began to show interest in human culture beyond just reproduction. They asked about music, art, literature, concepts that were as foreign to the Zarkay as energy-based reproduction was to humans. One evening, Amelia found Zeph in the recreation room, their form undulating slowly as they listened to a piece of classical music. "This auditory stimulation," Zeph said as Amelia entered, "it creates the most peculiar sensations in my energy field." Amelia smiled. "That's Beethoven's Ninth Symphony. It's considered one of the greatest pieces of music ever composed." "Music," Zeph mused. "Another uniquely human concept. We have harmonic resonances in our energy patterns, but nothing like this organized sound that seems to provoke emotional responses." As they stood there, listening to the swelling orchestra, Amelia felt a sudden wave of emotion. Here she was, sharing one of humanity's greatest achievements with a being from another world. It was a moment of connection that transcended species, a bridge across the vast gulf of space and evolution that separated them. "Zeph," she said softly, "I think you're starting to understand humans better than you realize." The Zarke's form shimmered with a warm golden light, a color Amelia had never seen before. "Perhaps," Zeph replied, "or perhaps I'm only beginning to understand how much there is to learn." As the exchange program approached its halfway point, both Amelia and Zeph realized that their research had taken them far beyond the original scope of studying human reproduction. They were no longer just scientist and subject, but two beings from vastly different worlds, each gaining a new perspective on life, consciousness, and the nature of existence itself. What had started as a biological study had become a profound journey of cultural exchange and self-discovery. And as Amelia looked at Zeph, glowing softly in the dim light of the recreation room, she couldn't help but wonder what other revelations awaited them in the months to come. Little did they know, their greatest challenges and most astonishing discoveries were still ahead. The true test of their growing understanding and the strength of the bond between their species was about to begin. Unexpected bonds and discoveries. As the exchange program entered its second half, the relationship between Dr. Amelia Clark and Zeph had evolved into something neither of them had anticipated. What began as a purely scientific partnership had blossomed into a friendship that defied the boundaries of their species. One crisp autumn morning, Amelia found Zeph in the research center's arboretum, their form shimmering with a soft, pulsating light as they observed a butterfly landing on a nearby flower. "Good morning, Zeph," Amelia said, approaching with 2 cups of coffee, a morning ritual she had started sharing with the alien, despite Zeph's inability to consume the beverage. "Enjoying the garden?" Zeph's form rippled in acknowledgement. "Indeed. I find the diversity of Earth's ecosystem endlessly fascinating. The intricate relationships between different life forms, the delicate balance, it's quite different from our world." Amelia sipped her coffee, nodding. "I've been meaning to ask you about that. What is your home world like?" Zeph's colors shifted to a deep, contemplative blue. "Our world, Zarkai Prime, is uniform by your standards. Our species exists as energy patterns, remember. We don't have the same need for diverse ecosystems. Our planet is mostly composed of energy fields that we inhabit and manipulate." "That sounds peaceful," Amelia mused. "Peaceful, yes, but perhaps lacking in certain stimuli," Zeph admitted. "I've come to appreciate the chaotic beauty of your world." As they continued their conversation, Amelia couldn't help but marvel at how far they'd come. Zeph's understanding of human culture had grown exponentially, and in turn, Amelia's perception of life and consciousness had expanded beyond anything she could have imagined. Their research had yielded fascinating results. They had discovered that while human and Zarke reproduction were fundamentally different, there were surprising parallels in the way both species passed on information to their offspring. Humans did it through DNA and learned behaviors, while the Zarke imprinted complex energy patterns. But it was their latest discovery that had truly excited both of them. Through careful study of both human and Zarkai biology, they had theorized that there might be a way to translate human genetic information into Zarkai energy patterns, and vice versa. If we can perfect this process, Amelia explained enthusiastically to the research team during their weekly meeting, it could revolutionize our understanding of life itself. We could potentially store human genetic information as energy patterns, or even create physical manifestations of Zarkai energy signatures. The implications were staggering. It could lead to breakthroughs in human medicine, offering new ways to treat genetic diseases. For the Zarkai, it opened up the possibility of experiencing physical form, something entirely foreign to their species. As exciting as these developments were, they also brought new challenges. The ethical implications of such technology were complex and far-reaching. Amelia and Zeph spent long hours debating the potential consequences, both positive and negative. We must proceed with caution, Zeph warned during one of their late-night discussions. Such power to manipulate the fundamental nature of our beings, it could be dangerous in the wrong hands. Amelia nodded solemnly. I agree. We need to establish strict protocols and safeguards before we take this research any further. Their conversation was interrupted by an urgent call from the research center's security team. Dr. Clark, we have a situation. There's been a breach in the high-security lab. Amelia's heart raced as she and Zeph rushed to the lab. When they arrived, they found the room in disarray. Equipment was overturned, and several research samples were missing. Who could have done this? Amelia whispered, surveying the damage. Zeph's form pulsed with a deep red, a color Amelia had learned to associate with anger and concern. I fear I may know. There is a faction among my people who believe that interspecies research like ours is dangerous. They think it could lead to the dilution of our pure energy forms. Amelia's eyes widened in shock. You mean, Zarkai did this? But how? When? I'm not sure, Zeph replied, their forms shimmering with distress. But if they've taken our research on energy genetic translation, the consequences could be severe. As they began to assess the damage and alert the proper authorities, Amelia couldn't help but feel a sense of dread. Their groundbreaking work, meant to bridge the gap between their species, was now in the hands of those who would use it to drive them apart. In the days that followed, tensions ran high. The human governments demanded answers, suspecting a breach of trust from the Zarkai. The Zarkai High Council, in turn, distanced themselves from the actions of the radical faction, but the damage to interspecies relations had been done. Amelia and Zeph found themselves at the center of a diplomatic storm. Their research, once celebrated as a beacon of interspecies cooperation, was now viewed with suspicion and fear. Perhaps, Zeph said one evening, their form dimmed with what Amelia had come to recognize as sadness, it would be best if I returned to my world. My presence here seems to be causing more harm than good. Amelia felt a pang in her chest at the thought. No, Zeph, we can't let fear and mistrust win. What we've discovered, what we've learned from each other, it's too important to abandon. She placed her hand near Zeph's form, feeling the familiar tingle of their energy field. We'll find a way through this, together. Zeph's form brightened slightly at her words. Your species' capacity for hope in the face of adversity continues to amaze me, Amelia. As they stood there, human and alien united in their determination, neither of them could have predicted the challenges that lay ahead. The theft of their research was just the beginning. Soon, they would face a threat that would test not only their scientific prowess, but the very bonds of trust and friendship they had forged. The next phase of their journey would take them beyond the confines of Earth into the vast expanse of space, where the true nature of their discoveries and the depth of their connection would be revealed in ways neither of them could have imagined. As the gravity of their situation settled in, Amelia and Zeph knew that the coming days would define not just their own futures, but potentially the future of human-Zarkai relations for generations to come. With renewed determination, they set out to reclaim their research and prove that the bond between their species was stronger than any force that sought to tear them apart. Crisis and human ingenuity. The theft of Amelia and Zeph's research had thrown the Interspecies Research Center into chaos. As days turned into weeks with no leads, the tension between humans and Zark reached a boiling point. Earth's governments were demanding answers, while the Zarkai High Council insisted on launching their own investigation. Amelia found herself working tirelessly, trying to recreate their lost work, while also attempting to maintain the fragile peace between the two species. Zeph, for their part, had been in constant communication with their homeworld, trying to gather any information about the radical faction responsible for the theft. It was during one of their late-night research sessions that a breakthrough finally came. Amelia. Zeph's voice crackled through the translator, their form pulsing with an intense blue light. I've received a transmission from one of my contacts on Zarkai Prime. They've traced the stolen research to a remote outpost in the Kuiper Belt. Amelia's eyes widened. The Kuiper Belt? That's at the edge of our solar system. What could they be doing out there? Zeph's colors swirled anxiously. I fear they may be attempting to use our research to create some kind of hybrid being, a fusion of Zarkai energy patterns and human genetic material. The implications hit Amelia like a ton of bricks. If the radical faction succeeded, it could upset the balance between their species forever. Worse, it could lead to a creation that neither humans nor Zarkai were prepared to deal with. We need to stop them, Amelia said, her voice firm with resolve. But how? We don't have a ship capable of reaching the Kuiper Belt quickly enough. Zeph's form shimmered thoughtfully. Perhaps we don't need a ship. Amelia, do you remember our discussions about quantum entanglement? Amelia nodded, her mind racing. Yes, you mentioned that Zarkai use it for long-distance communication. But what does that have to do with? Oh, her eyes lit up as she grasped Zeph's idea. You think we could use quantum entanglement to transport ourselves there? Precisely, Zeph confirmed. It's never been attempted with a human before, but given our research into translating human genetic information into energy patterns, we could convert my physical form into an energy pattern, entangle it with yours, and essentially teleport to the outpost. Amelia finished, her excitement building. Zeph, that's brilliant, but also incredibly risky. Zeph pulsed with a mix of anticipation and concern. Indeed, the process would be dangerous, and there's no guarantee we could reverse it to restore your physical form. Are you willing to take that risk? Amelia took a deep breath, considering the gravity of the decision before her. This wasn't just about saving their research anymore. It was about preventing a potential catastrophe that could forever alter the relationship between humans and Zarkai. The fate of both their species could hang in the balance. I am, she said finally, her voice steady despite the fear fluttering in her chest. If we don't stop them, everything we've worked for could be destroyed. I trust you, Zeph. The next few hours were a flurry of activity as they prepared for the risky procedure. They worked in secret, knowing that if either of their governments found out, they would likely be stopped. This was a mission that only they could undertake. As Amelia lay on the specially prepared platform, surrounded by humming equipment, she looked up at Zeph's shimmering form. If this doesn't work, thank you, Zeph, for everything. Our friendship has meant more to me than any scientific discovery. Zeph's colors softened to a warm, comforting glow. And to me as well, Amelia. Your species' capacity for trust and self-sacrifice continues to amaze me. Are you ready? Amelia nodded, closing her eyes as the machines around her whirred to life. She felt a tingling sensation spread throughout her body, intensifying until it felt like every atom was vibrating. There was a moment of excruciating pain, followed by a sensation of weightlessness. When she opened her eyes, she was no longer in the lab. She was everywhere and nowhere at once. She could feel Zeph's presence intertwined with her own, guiding her through the quantum realm. In what felt like both an eternity and an instant, they rematerialized in a dimly lit corridor. Amelia gasped, patting herself down in disbelief. She was whole, physical, and they had made it to the outpost. It worked, she breathed, looking at Zeph with a mixture of awe and relief. We did it. But there was no time for celebration. A distant hum and flashing lights at the end of the corridor indicated that the radical Zarkay were already at work. Amelia and Zeph moved silently through the outpost, following the sounds until they reached a large circular chamber. What they saw inside made them both freeze in horror. In the center of the room, encased in a swirling vortex of energy, was a being unlike anything they had ever seen. It was part human, part Zarkay, a twisted amalgamation of flesh and energy that pulsed and writhed in apparent agony. Around the vortex, several Zarkay worked feverishly at control panels, their forms flickering with intense concentration. They were so focused on their work that they didn't notice the new arrivals. "We have to stop this," Amelia whispered, her heart racing. "That being, it's suffering." Zeph's form pulsed with determination. "Agreed. But how? We're outnumbered, and they have control of the systems." Amelia's mind raced, drawing on everything she had learned about Zarkay technology and energy manipulation. Then an idea struck her, a crazy, potentially suicidal idea, but one that just might work. "Zeph," she said urgently, "remember how we discovered that human emotions can create unique energy signatures? I need you to trust me and follow my lead." Before Zeph could respond, Amelia stepped into the room, her voice ringing out clear and strong. "Stop this madness. Can't you see you're causing pain?" The radical Zarkay whirled to face her, their forms flickering with surprise and anger. As they moved to intercept her, Amelia closed her eyes, focusing on every positive emotion she could muster: love, hope, compassion, the joy of discovery, the warmth of friendship. To everyone's astonishment, Amelia began to glow. It started as a faint aura, but quickly intensified until she was shining as brightly as any Zarkay. The radicals hesitated, confused by this display of energy from a human. Zeph, understanding Amelia's plan, joined their energy with hers. Together, they created a harmonious resonance that filled the chamber, drowning out the discordant energies of the hybrid creation. The hybrid being in the vortex responded to their energy, its chaotic form beginning to stabilize. The radical Zarkay, overwhelmed by the unexpected turn of events, found their own energy patterns involuntarily synchronizing with Amelia and Zeph's harmonious frequency. In that moment of connection, understanding flowed between all present. The radicals saw the beauty of the bond between Amelia and Zeph, felt the potential for growth and discovery that came from cooperation rather than forced fusion. Slowly, the vortex began to dissipate. The hybrid being separated into its component parts, a swirl of Zarkay energy and a strand of human DNA, both unharmed. As the glow faded, Amelia fell to her knees, exhausted but triumphant. Zeph's form enveloped her protectively as the radical Zarkay looked on in stunned silence. "Do you understand now?" Amelia asked, her voice weak but resolute. "True unity doesn't come from forcing two species to become one. It comes from understanding, from forming bonds of trust and friendship." The lead radical stepped forward, its form dim with what seemed like shame. We were wrong. We sought to strengthen our species, but in doing so, we nearly destroyed what makes both our kinds unique. As the gravity of what had transpired settled over the room, Amelia and Zeph knew that this was more than just a rescue mission. It was a turning point in human-Zarkay relations, one that would reshape the future of both their species. With the crisis averted and their research recovered, they prepared to return to Earth. But they knew that their journey was far from over. The real work, building true understanding between their kinds, was just beginning. As they activated the quantum entanglement device to transport back, Amelia looked at Zeph, a smile on her face despite her exhaustion. "Ready for the next chapter, partner?" Zeph's form glowed warmly in response. "With you, Amelia, I'm ready for anything." In a flash of light, they vanished from the outpost, leaving behind a group of radicals with much to contemplate. The future that awaited them on Earth was uncertain, but one thing was clear. The bond between human and Zarkai had been tested in fire and emerged stronger than ever. A new understanding. The return to Earth was met with a mixture of relief, confusion, and renewed tension. News of Amelia and Zeph's unsanctioned mission to the Kuiper Belt spread quickly, causing an uproar in both human and Zarkai political circles. The two found themselves at the center of a diplomatic storm, facing inquiries from both species governments. As they stood before a joint council of human and Zarkai leaders, Amelia couldn't help but feel a sense of déjà vu. It was reminiscent of the first days of the exchange program, only now, the stakes were infinitely higher. Dr. Clark, researcher Zeph, began the human representative, her voice stern. Your actions, while ultimately beneficial, were reckless and unauthorized. You put yourselves and potentially both our species at risk. What do you have to say for yourselves? Amelia stepped forward, her chin held high. With all due respect, we did what was necessary. The situation required immediate action, and we were uniquely positioned to handle it. Zeph's form pulsed in agreement. Indeed, our combined knowledge and the trust we've built allowed us to resolve a crisis that could have had catastrophic consequences for both our peoples. The Zarkai counselor's form shimmered with a mix of colors: confusion, admiration, and concern. Your methods were unorthodox, but we cannot deny the results. However, this incident has raised serious questions about the future of our collaboration. As the debate raged on, Amelia and Zeph exchanged a glance. They knew that this moment would define the future of human-Zarkai relations. It was time to take a stand. Esteemed counselors, Amelia began, her voice clear and confident. What happened at the Kuiper Belt outpost was more than just a rescue mission. It was proof of what can be achieved when our species truly work together. Zeph continued, their form glowing with conviction. We faced a threat that neither of our species could have handled alone. It was only through the combination of human emotion and Zarkai energy manipulation that we were able to succeed. Amelia nodded, building on Zeph's point. Moreover, we've made a groundbreaking discovery. The ability to convert human genetic material into Zarkai energy patterns and vice versa opens up possibilities we've only begun to explore. The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. The human representative leaned forward, intrigued. What kind of possibilities? Imagine, Amelia said, her eyes alight with excitement, being able to store human memories as Zarkai energy patterns, preserving them for generations, or using Zarkai energy manipulation techniques to cure human genetic diseases. Zeph chimed in, their form pulsating with enthusiasm. For my people, it could mean experiencing physical form for the first time, broadening our understanding of the universe in ways we never thought possible. The Zarkai counselor's colors shifted to a deep, contemplative blue. These are indeed intriguing prospects, but the ethical implications are complex and far-reaching, Amelia finished, which is why we propose the establishment of a joint human-Zarkai ethics committee to oversee this research. We've seen the dangers of this knowledge falling into the wrong hands. Moving forward, transparency and cooperation must be our guiding principles. As the council deliberated, Amelia and Zeph stood side by side, a living embodiment of the unity they proposed. Their journey had taken them across the solar system and to the very boundaries of their species' understanding of life itself. Now they stood at the threshold of a new era of interspecies collaboration. After what felt like an eternity, the council reached a decision. The human representative stood, her expression solemn but her eyes bright with possibility. Dr. Clark, researcher Zeph, your proposal is accepted. We will establish a joint research initiative, with both of you at its head. The Zarkai counselor's form glowed with approval. Your unique bond and combined expertise make you the ideal candidates to lead us into this new frontier of discovery. As the council chamber erupted in a flurry of activity, Amelia turned to Zeph, a smile spreading across her face. We did it, she whispered. Zeph's form shimmered with an array of warm colors: joy, pride, and something akin to affection. No, Amelia, we've only just begun. In the months that followed, the Interspecies Research Center expanded, becoming a hub of collaboration between humans and Zarkai. Scientists from both species worked side by side, exploring the possibilities unlocked by Amelia and Zeph's discoveries. The radical faction that had caused so much trouble was brought to justice, but rather than punishment, they were offered rehabilitation. Many of them, humbled by their experience, became some of the most ardent supporters of interspecies cooperation. As for Amelia and Zeph, their partnership continued to evolve. They became more than just colleagues or friends. They were pioneers, pushing the boundaries of what was possible when two vastly different species came together in harmony. One evening, as they stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed space station that orbited between Earth and Zarkai Prime, Amelia looked out at the stars. "You know, Zeph," she mused, "when we first met, I never could have imagined we'd end up here." Zeph's form undulated gently, reflecting the starlight. "The universe is full of surprises, Amelia. That is something both our species can agree on." Amelia laughed, the sound echoing in the quiet of the observation deck. "Indeed it is. So, partner, what's our next adventure?" As Zeph began to outline their latest research ideas, Amelia felt a sense of profound gratitude wash over her. Their journey had been fraught with challenges, misunderstandings, and dangers, but it had led to something beautiful. A true bridge between species, a new understanding of life itself. As human and Zarkai worked together below them on the space station, and as both Earth and Zarkai Prime glowed in the distance, Amelia knew that they had only scratched the surface of what was possible. The future stretched out before them, vast and full of potential, ready to be explored together. In that moment, standing beside her alien friend, colleague, and partner, Dr. Amelia Clark felt the truth of what they had discovered, that the greatest frontiers were not just out there in the cosmos, but in the connections we forge, the understanding we build, and the boundaries we push together. The story of humanity and the Zarkai was just beginning, and Amelia couldn't wait to see where it would lead them next.